Hi everyone, today we're going to continue to talk about the important role we all have in discipling not only our own children but all the children in our church congregation. I just wanted to share some ways that I try to disciple my own children, but obviously I'm not an expert, I'm still learning and just trying to do my best at this extremely hard role of being a parent. I'm sure many of you watching have got some amazing tried and tested ideas which I would absolutely love you to share with us all. Every parent and every child is unique and will need different approaches to discipleship. I certainly get it wrong all the time, so there is much work needed in this area for me. It really is vital that we give the children in our congregation a firm foundation of Bible teaching before they become teenagers, as sadly once they become teenagers it is so much harder. Teenagers often think they know all there is to know about God and the Bible, and they form their own views on the world and religion. They have heard all the Bible stories and have made their own opinions on who God is and what they know about the Bible, but sadly many of them have not had the opportunity to know God personally and experience a relationship with Him. So it's about giving children Bible teaching, but also balancing that teaching with the opportunities to truly experience God. In the Bible it tells us many times that as parents it is our role to disciple and teach our children about God. In Proverbs 22 verse 6 it says, "Start children off on the way they should go, and even when they are old they will not turn from it." In Deuteronomy 6 verses 6 to 7, "These commandments I give you today are to be on your hearts. Impress them on your children. Talk to them when you sit at home and when you walk along the road, when you lie down and when you get up." The time we spend with children at a young age impacts the rest of their lives. By pouring core values into children while they are still young will help them have these Christian values instilled in them as they grow into adults. This teaching can't just happen on a Sunday morning though. Parents, carers and all adults in church have an important part to play. Children's ministry on a Sunday is hugely important, but it can't take place of a parent discipling their child. For example, a child may spend 4 hours in church, but that still does not even begin to compare to the amount of time that parents spend with their children. I'm so grateful to have been brought up in a Christian household where both my parents took me to church every week, where I received teaching, but my parents also played a huge role in my discipling at home. My parents taught me Christian values and role modelled Christian living and how to read the Bible and pray. As this was taught to me from a young, impressionable age, this has stayed with me for 40 years later, and I'm so grateful to my parents for taking that time to disciple me. Unfortunately, we are living in a time where children are on screens more than ever, which is filling our children's brains with quite often just a lot of nonsense, and it's influencing the way they think about the world. It is our job to dilute the noise our children see and hear through films, TV, social media and their peers every day. We need to help fill their minds and their hearts with God on a regular basis so that they have a clear understanding of who God is. Sadly, if we don't disciple our children, the world will. Each day our children are exposed to messages from our culture about how they should look, how they should think and how they should act. As they grow older, this exposure will increase. It really is vital that we don't just leave it to chance and hope our children decide to continue their journey with Christ into adulthood. We need to be intentional in our discipleship to help our children learn how to walk with Christ. We must not let worldly culture dictate to us how we should raise our children. So it's about keeping alert to the dangers of our children falling into the worldly mindset and being influenced by the things of the world, Every day we need to be sowing those seeds of truth to our children and help them to keep their eyes and their hearts on Jesus. As our children's leader, I see it as it is really critical that we work together as a partnership. You as parents are the best influencers our children can have. You may not feel like it sometimes, but you are your children's heroes and they want to be like you. So model Christian living to them is hugely important. Instill those key values. I think a lot of parents are not sure where to start in regards to discipling their children, but it doesn't have to be hard. It's about integrating it into your daily family routines. So as children's leader, as you as parents, and as you as members of our church, we all have a crucial role to play in discipling the children in our congregation. Let's come together and encourage each other and prioritise involvement in church life. Bring your children to church regularly. Make strong friendships with other Christian families. Come along to events and immerse your children into church life. Church and home aren't to work in isolation of each other. They are to work hand in hand in partnership to disciple your children. So how do we disciple our children? We need to set realistic expectations. One of the main problems we have as parents, especially us mums, is that we expect way too much of ourselves. And when we can't live up to our expectations, we feel like failures and then we often want to quit. Family worship doesn't have to take you hours each day with singing, prayer, lengthy and in-depth Bible teaching. It could be just talking at dinner time over a Bible story. Wherever you are, start there and develop habits that work and then build on them to get to where you want to be. See discipling your children as a way of life. There is nothing at all wrong with having an organised time for family worship. It's a brilliant idea, but we also need to see it as a way of life. That means we need to talk to our kids about faith naturally and as much as possible. For example, looking for opportunities to talk about the Bible or to role model your own faith to them. And always be on the lookout for opportunities to pray with them and for others, so that it slowly becomes second nature to them. We need to be really authentic as Christian parents, as our children are always watching our behaviour and hanging on to every word we say. It's no good being one way at church on a Sunday worshipping God, saying the right things, loving everyone, and then in contrast behaving in a very different way during the week. Not even opening your Bible, using bad language, not showing kindness and serving others, etc. These are two extremes, I know, but you know what I mean. We need to be good examples to our children, as our behaviour will influence them much more than anything we could ever sit down and try and teach them. It really is about having the right lifestyle and thinking about simple things, like what music we are listening to, what do the children see you reading or watching on TV, how do you speak to people, how do you treat people, how are you spending your time and your money. Children are always watching the adults in their life and they will copy what they do. Be a guide to your children and learn together. As parents, we often think of ourselves as the authority to tell our kids what to do and point them in the direction to go. There is certainly a place for that at times, but when it comes to discipling our children, we're better off seeing ourselves as guides instead. Don't try to be the expert with all the answers, but instead learn with them. It also gives us the freedom to tell our children that we don't understand something and that we can seek the answer together. And make sure that you are spiritually fed. The best teaching comes from the overflow of what we are learning. Spend more time feeding your growth and growing your own understanding. Study God's word more deeply and on a regular basis. Worship in meaningful ways with others and by yourself. Again, it's about role modelling to our younger generation and being filled with the Spirit yourself to then pass on to the children. Pray with them and for them. Just as you want to have meaningful conversations throughout the day with your children, you want to be praying with them and for them as well. Thinking back to when my children were young, I think the first prayers we said with our children were at bedtime, thanking God for the day and praying for other people and situations the children wanted to pray for. Since our children were very young, we have always said grace before each meal. We kept it simple at first, thanked God for our food, and perhaps prayed another short prayer depending on what had happened that day. We then also started using a simple grace dice, which had different graces on each side, and the children would roll the dice and read that before each meal. We don't often use that dice now, as they know all the prayers by heart, and they're also now confident enough to pray their own prayers without the dice as a prompt. It's about looking for opportunities to have each day to pray together. Perhaps try praying in the car on the way to school, or while you cook dinner, or when you're going for a walk together. For example, we quite often pray at the end of dinner, as during dinner time often things have come up that need prayer. We do need to be aware though not to stick too rigidly, and to not just talk to our children about spiritual things at these set times, as we may run the risk of isolating their faith to a few small sections of the day or the week. So I'm going to finish here, and I really do encourage you to join me for a Zoom chat tonight at 8 p.m. I'm hoping Leanne will be able to put the Zoom code at the bottom of the screen now for you. It would be so great to hear your ideas and tips on how you disciple your children. Perhaps you could recommend a book on this subject that you have perhaps read and found helpful. It's so important that we support each other and share ideas, as this parenting thing is a really tricky job. And 2 out of my children aren't teenagers yet, so I have more challenging times to come, and I'm really hoping that some of you more experienced people will be able to help me. Or just come along and listen to what others have to say. Everyone is welcome, and you don't need to be a parent to come. It would be so great to see you. Hopefully see all of you tonight at 8. Bye.